Hey, good morning. How you guys doing? I'll let you guys out in a minute, but first I want to move you to new grass. As a family, we love and cherish having a nice turkey for Thanksgiving and Christmas for that matter, and even sometimes throughout the year for no good reason at all, except for good tasting meat. Problem was, we couldn't find local, healthy, organic, free range on pasture turkeys, so this year we decided to do it ourselves. This will be my first time ever doing this, but I'm going to show you how I was successfully able to do it from all the way to the beginning to the end. I'll talk about some of the mistakes I made and what I would do next time to prevent that. And of course, I'll talk about the tools and strategies I used my rookie season to be successful. And I'll break down our story into 4 phases. And finally, I'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages compared to chickens. Be sure to check out the show notes where I link all the resources I mentioned in this video. All right, let's do this. The first phase of our story was to make a plan. We found out that turkeys needed a special high protein feed, so we found out where to get it. Luckily, we had an organic type farm store nearby that we could get it here in our town. We also figured out that we would need to baby them more than chickens, twice as long, up to 8 weeks. So we figured out a nice place in our house where we could actually do that. We also figured out how many birds we would get. We wanted at least 2 for the holidays. This was our first run, so what the heck. We bought 14. Then we made sure we had the right supplies to transition them to grass. And for that matter, we came up with a plan to raise them in the brooder, transition them to the grass, and then to be full-time on the grass. So then we made sure we had the right equipment like this electric poultry net and an extra housing to house them in for when they were out in the field. And of course, made sure that we had their feeders and waterers and things like that. Early in the year, I'm talking like January, long before we would get them in May, we found a breeder. We went with someone through the Sustainable Poultry Network, and so we just went with the breed that we could get that's closer to us. It's the bronze breasted. It's been a wonderful breed. If you can't find anybody through the Sustainable Poultry Network, you could try the Livestock Conservancy, even Craigslist, and then if you need to, hatcheries online. They'll ship anywhere. Then we made our order of these poults, planned for them to be hatched in about May-ish, so it's nice and warm in the spring, but they're also ready by now, like early November, just in time for Thanksgiving. The second phase of our story is the brooding phase. For brooding 14 turkeys, we went to the Tractor Supply and bought the metal trough. I believe it was the 2 foot by 8 foot. It was awesome to serve as the brooder. We placed this in our large hallway at room temperature. Then we put down at least 8 inches of pine shavings for bedding, and then every day we added a little more to keep it fresh and didn't have to change it out until the very end. We use a standard heat lamp, just attaching it to the trough with a white light, but noticed that the turkeys were picking at each other. And so we read up about it and we learned that we should put a red heat lamp in there, and we kept that going 24/7. Not only did they stop picking at each other as much, they still picked on each other a little bit, which is normal. They actually slept and rested a little bit better. During the day, to simulate daylight, we kept the hall light on. Since we were told that turkeys were so fragile in the beginning, we really upped our preventative measures. We gave them magic water, which is warm water mixed with apple cider vinegar, some crushed garlic, and some honey. And then we fermented their feed, I think up to the first 4 weeks. And guess what? We only lost 1 out of 14. That's 7%. Part of the key was keeping their bedding fresh, adding bedding every day, but it was also keeping their water and feeder clean. To do that, I would put a little cup in there in the bedding so that the water and the feeder would sit above that. And at some point, they began to hop up on the water and feeder to perch, and they would poop in it. And so I got to where I would tape a plate on top of that, and that kind of worked. I'd have to adjust it every day, but at least it got the poop out of there. Maybe next time I would try to figure out a better way to do it so I didn't have to adjust that every day and it was more permanent. After a few weeks, some of the turkeys started jumping out and going and walking around in our house. I built this frame just to fit the top of that thing. It worked out great. It's just 2x2s, 1/2 inch wire mesh, amount for the heat lamp, it worked great to keep them in. Of course, I used turkey starter for the first 6 weeks of their life. I also, in addition to the fermenting and the magic water, as I like to call it, I would bring in fresh greens from the yard. I noticed early on that they would be loud if they were stressed out. If somehow one of the kids turned off the heat lamp or they were out of water or feed, they would start chirping and be loud, and that was cool because they were inside and we could hear if they were stressed out and fix it really quick. Now, one thing I should say is don't be alarmed at dead looking turkeys. I don't know how many times I thought somebody was dead. They're so relaxed and fragile in the beginning compared to chickens. They're just laying down there and you will swear they're dead. They're not. Let them rest. I mean, at first, like us, you're probably gonna wanna poke at them a little bit just to make sure. But if one dies, like it did for us, you just dispose of it correctly. But don't worry about it. If one dies, it's part of the process. You're trying to eliminate as much of that as possible. The third phase, my favorite, was transitioning them to grass. Around 6 weeks, as we transitioned from turkey starter feed to turkey grower feed, we also started transitioning them outside. We put them outside during the day, transporting them with a cardboard box. We put them outside in a floorless cage. We also put a shade cloth over it so no aerial predators would get them, and to provide them shade during the day from the hot sun to give them that extra protection, give them that extra care. At night, we would bring them back in, but not turn on the heat lamp. In the morning, before we moved them out, we would move the cage to new grass, and it was absolutely amazing to put them out there and to see just how much they really enjoyed it. They would just pick all day long. Of course, we would bring their water and feed out there too as a supplement, but I really started to notice then that the turkeys really like the grass and can really eat a lot from the land. The fourth phase in our story was maturing them on grass. For my pasture setup, I used the Premier One 164-foot electric fence and this chicken coop that I wasn't using. That's one thing I do different. They didn't like this chicken coop. They don't like the enclosure like chickens do, I found out. They would much rather have something more open. In fact, they tried to perch on top, on the open door, outside on the ground. So I would make a more airy coop, definitely a roof and some sort of protection over the side because we have an owl problem here, so maybe some poultry net, but something so that a lot of air can go through and they really feel like they're out in the open. I tried to let them perch on the roof and outside like they wanted to, but an owl got them. And then they got a little older and I thought I'd let them try it again, and an owl kept getting them. We lost 3 that way. So that's definitely my biggest mistake. From then on, we herded them in every night. In fact, herding them in was so easy. Actually, the children did it probably for the last 2 months, herded these guys in every night, and we didn't lose one since then. I moved these guys every week or 2 to fresh grass. I noticed they ate so much from the land as compared to the chickens. The first thing they do when they come out is get on the grass, especially when you move them to a new place. It's gonna be really exciting. I'm about to move these guys and you'll see. They'll go for the grass, not the feed first. And if you can, and if I could have, if I had more time, you can move them more often. The more you move them, the fresher the grass is, the more they're gonna eat off the land and less grain inputs you're gonna have to feed them from outside your farm. It's absolutely amazing. All told, it took about 15 bags, organic. I was paying about $34 a bag for those things to raise 10 birds. So that's only $50 a bird. And around here, we get $10 a pound. So I estimate about 10-pound bird, maybe more, maybe a hair less. We'll see, butchering. That's double the money. That's not bad. And if you raise one turkey for $50 yourself, that's great if you're buying the heritage free-range turkeys. Around here, if you did spring for that, it's gonna be like $250. So I'm really excited about that. And I know this story. I could tell this story when we sit down to Thanksgiving. We could be like, kids, you remember herding these every night? You remember when they would get out every night and we would chase them in? Oh, and by the way, if they do get out, I forgot to address that problem. just clip their wings. They got to where they would fly over the fence, and we got a little worried about them because too many were getting out. You just clip their wings, and that solved the problem for us, for the most part, okay? So this has a story, and this is a special meal, and I believe, in my own conviction, this is priceless. You just can't buy this. Now, let me compare these guys to chickens real quick. Well, first of all, they aren't crazy impossible like everybody made me think. I didn't lose half my poults in the beginning. I'm extremely happy about how well they forage and survive on grass compared to chickens. And for that matter, they have a different purpose in the sense that, I do love that a chicken scratches because that's a tilling machine. But there is a place where you might not want tilling, like mowing grass. Look, check this out. Check this out. I mean, they didn't get the big stuff, but this is well mowed, but not torn up. You know what I'm saying? And it's a little beat up right now, but it's gonna come back so lush because of that manure. Plus, they add a variety of flavor to the table. There are many turkey dishes you just don't want to make with chicken. And as a homesteader trying to grow most of your food, you want the biggest variety possible, the easiest way. And I think turkeys are a great transition addition if you're already doing chickens. It's not that hard to transition into turkeys. Or it's not that hard to do turkeys before you do anything else. In many ways, they're easier because they're so much more gentle and calm and can eat more from the land. Okay, you guys ready for this? This is the best part. This is the best part of farming right here. Grass-based farming. Come on out, guys. Enjoy the new grass. See, look how calm and quiet. They're gonna check out their new surrounding. Now, they're not the smartest. They do have bird brain, especially this one. Sometimes will not walk out that door. Come on, man. The door's right here. Hear them talking to each other? She will eventually get out. Look at them puffing. I got mostly males. They'll come out here and they'll puff. Ooh, look, they're eating the grass. Yes, I love you guys. I'm pretty convinced that if I committed to moving them every day, I wouldn't even have to feed them grain. To wrap this video up, in conclusion, I love this, absolutely love this. I would totally do it again. Just a few things I would change, but totally excited and happy about this process. Oh, and one thing I thought of is that I said it was $50 a bird, but remember, what if I was only gonna keep 2 or 5? I would have 5 others to sell. And if I sold 5 at just $100 a piece, that's $500. That's covering my feed costs. So essentially, I grew my own Thanksgiving, Christmas, and a few other turkeys throughout the year for no cost. Do you see? And it's not that much harder to grow 10 turkeys than it is 2. So it's absolutely amazing system. Absolutely love it. I couldn't be more happy about it. Be sure to check out the notes for all the resources, and I wish you the best on your own adventures raising your own Thanksgiving turkey.